Hey guys, today we're talking about intelligence. This is the first of two videos on intelligence. Before we can get into what we need to talk about today, we need to talk about what intelligence is and what intelligence is not. First of all, intelligence is not a trait that people either have or don't have. It's something that, yes, it can be measured, but it's not this, I'm smart, therefore I have intelligence. Okay, there's a lot of different types of intelligence and a lot of different ways we can use our intelligence. So intelligence is this abstract concept that's defined as our ability to learn from experience, solve problems, and adapt to new situations. Now, you wouldn't think of your typical NFL quarterback as being Einstein-level, high IQ, going to create some theorem that explains space level of intelligent, but they do use intelligence. They learn from experiences, which plays worked, which plays didn't. They do use problem-solving skills. How do I get this ball from one end of the field to the other and score points? And they do adapt to new situations. Okay, I'm playing on AstroTurf instead of grass, or it's raining in Green Bay, or I got transferred to Tampa. How do I make this work out for me? So what we're going to talk about today is testing. I know it's not the most exciting thing, but it is going to help get you a better understanding, not just for this unit, but for life in general. As high school students, you take a lot of tests. And this is going to kind of help you understand what a lot of the things associated with these tests means. So performance on IQ tests has been rising over the last couple of decades. This is something called the Flynn effect. We see it for a couple of reasons. First, we see it because we have better access to education, right? We have information at our fingertips. You're watching this video on YouTube. We have better access to nutrition, and our school system has gotten much, much better. We also see the rise in IQ tests because we see a lot more people getting tested for IQ. We're not just testing the extreme highs and the extreme lows of IQ like we were in the past. Kind of everybody, since society values IQ so much, wants to know what their number is. So there's a lot more people getting IQ tests. Before we can get into what makes a good test, we have to talk about the two types of tests that there are. First, there's the aptitude test. This is going to be your SAT, hence standard aptitude test. And an aptitude test measures future outcomes, predictions. So what the SAT and the ACT are measuring as aptitude tests is how well that you are going to do in college. What is your future performance going to be like in college? That's why they're used as college admissions tests. The other type of test is an achievement test. It's what you've learned up until this point. So your AP exam, your final exam, your EOCs, whatever, those are all going to be achievement tests. All right, so what makes a good test? Like I said, it's not in your experience to think of a test as a good test or a bad test, except when you're looking at what your grade is on it. But there's actually 3 measures that determine whether or not a test is a good test. The first is standardization. Standardization has kind of gotten a bad rap in education, but really all it means is that a test is uniform in its administration. So when you take a ACT or an AP exam or an SAT, the instructions are read the same regardless of the testing location. The amount of time is the same regardless of the testing location. The results are going to be fairly uniform regardless of where you take the test. The way that tests are standardized is they are given to a sample group to start with, and then later groups are compared to it. So when you take the SAT, you're being compared to the performance of previous SAT test takers, okay? The scores are later compared, and then you're given a percentile score. We talked about this a little bit in statistics, but just as a refresher, your percentile score is how you did in comparison to other test takers. So if you score in the 99th percentile, congratulations, you're getting into a great school of your choice. You're not going to have too many problems because you scored higher than 99% of all other test takers. On the other hand, if you scored in the 50th percentile, you're probably going to have to retest and you're going to want to get a tutor because you only scored higher than half of all of other test takers. The other piece to what makes a good test is the test reliable? Meaning, are the results of the test consistent? This can be either within one test or comparatively between two versions of the test. So there's a couple of types of reliability that you need to be familiar with. The first is split half. What they do is they take the first half of the test, give it to one set of test takers, and then take the second half of the test and give it to a second half of test takers. Then they kind of compare the scores between those to make sure that the first half of the test wasn't particularly easy or hard in comparison to the second half of the test, that the whole test is consistently rigorous or difficult or easy or whatever throughout. The other type of reliability is test retest. The same test is given twice. A lot of my tests in class, for example, would have a test retest reliability. So the same test is given multiple times throughout the day, and pretty consistently your scores are right around the same range. You can also do a reliability with different versions of the test. The AP exam does this with the international, late, and regular administration version. All of those scores are relatively within the same place. The last type of indicator for whether or not a test is a good test is the test valid? Meaning, does the test test what it's supposed to? If you walk into my class and all of a sudden on your desk there is calculus and physics, when you're supposed to be taking an AP Psych class, that would not be a valid test. And again, there's a couple of different types of validity. The first is face validity. Do the test takers say that, yes, this is testing me on exactly what I knew I was coming into? Do I know all the information? Not necessarily, but I know for a fact I walked into Psych this morning and this is a Psych test. The next type of validity is content validity. This is going to be according to the experts in the field. So all those college professors and people who get together to write the AP Psych exam say, yes, these questions are related to psychology. Yes, these are things that are tested in my Intro to Psych class. It has content validity. The next two are a little bit more complicated. Predictive validity, does it accurately forecast what it's saying it's going to? So the ACT and the SAT would have predictive validity, right? You do really well on the SAT, you end up going to a really good school and doing really, really well. That's good predictive validity. Now, predictive validity is a little bit tricky because there are other things that can throw that off. Were you just having a bad day and you bombed your SAT? Did you have a stomach ache? Were you up all night? Whatever. And you bombed the SAT, so it means that you're not going to be successful in college? Not necessarily. The last type of validity is construct validity, and it is measuring the construct or the concept that it says it's going to. So intelligence tests. You want to make sure that an IQ test is actually measuring intelligence and not something else. A personality test is actually measuring aspects of the personality. A creativity test is measuring actually levels of creativity as defined by, whichever tasks you guys are doing. So those are the three kind of things that make a good test. Not necessarily an easy test, but what makes a test valid, reliable, and standardized. Any questions? As always, let me know, and I'll see you tomorrow.